And I'm going to ask everyone to mute if you aren't speaking, but if you're more than welcome to speak and unmute yourself.
Yes. So since this is a recording for our website, and I just started the recording, welcome again, everyone. I'm going to say the antitrust statement. I'll repeat one more time about the chat rules to get credit, and then we will start our presentation. So as businessmen and women attending a trade association meeting, our conduct must comply with the antitrust laws. Any issues that leads to a discussion involving pricing, markets, and production will be tabled, and we will move to the next item on the agenda. So one more time, if in the chat box, if you all want master logger or SAF credit, please put your name, your company, and then your registration number if you want SAF credit. I just need you guys to be really clear with the SAF portion, because I gotta put it on a sign-in sheet for you guys. So that's all I have, Ann, if you want to take it away.
Okay, great. Thanks, Brittany. Somebody give me a thumbs up. Everybody can hear me, right? And I have an opening slide on your screen. I hope that you can see. But my name is Ann Duff. I live in Jacksonville Beach, Florida. I'm the fiber sustainability manager for WestRock. I have a forestry degree from the University of Florida. I actually graduated 40 years ago, so I guess I'm officially an old timer. But it's my pleasure to do this presentation today about biodiversity, forests of exceptional conservation value, and particularly about the SFI fiber sourcing standard Objective 1. This presentation is kind of geared towards foresters and the SFI standard. It's being sponsored by the Florida SIC to help SFI fiber sourcing certificate holders meet the requirements of Objective 1. It's a community effort, and in that spirit, this presentation will be available to anyone that is interested in receiving it, and we're recording the presentation, so feel free to use it for training with your staff, or in the future show your auditors as evidence. So I'm going to go ahead and get going. So when we look at some of the species that occur in communities that occur in Florida, I always ask myself, is that rare? Is the black bear rare? Are sinkholes rare? What about the gopher tortoise? So we're going to talk about truly rare species and communities, and how we designate them globally and in the state of Florida. I do want to talk about the SFI standard, because that's kind of why we're here, specifically the fiber sourcing standard for wood procurement. And as you know, last year, the SFI standard was updated, and there's new principles and objectives, performance measures, and indicators that we have to follow to maintain our certificates for fiber sourcing. If you want to look at the standard in detail, it's available on the SFI website. Forest.org. Sounds like somebody needs to mute. But the requirements of the SFI fiber sourcing standard include measures to broaden the protection of biodiversity, use forestry BMPs to conserve water quality, provide outreach to landowners, and utilize the services of trained forest management and harvesting professionals. And we all know this as longtime certificate holders in SFI. So this lovely slide with all the yellow in it is actually the fiber sourcing standard Objective 1. So I put it in here because if you read the two performance measures and the indicators assigned to the performance measures, it kind of reads like Greek. You read it once and you say, okay, I think I understand what the standard says we have to do as a company. And then you read it again and you realize it says something kind of different than what you thought it said when you read it before. So if you haven't sat down and looked at Objective 1, it's just a couple of paragraphs, and really studied it, and thought about how your organization is going to meet the requirements, I'm hoping that this presentation will help you with that as you come up on your first cycle of audits to the new standard. Some of the things that I've highlighted on this page are interesting because when they revised the standard, they specifically tried to make Objective 1 something that we could do collaboratively as a community, specifically through the SICs. And that's what the Florida SIC has done, is they've tried to do as much meeting the requirements of Objective 1 for our certificate holders on the SIC as we possibly could. And that's part of what we're doing today. So the fiber sourcing objective, some of the resources that I thought you might want to consider when you're looking at, are you meeting the requirements of Objective 1, is, of course, you know, as SFI certified organizations, we have to demonstrate either collaboratively or individually support for biodiversity conservation. And how do we do that? It's practicing foresters, land managers, harvesters. So what the SIC has done is we have nearly completed, it's almost ready to be published, an assessment for 300 plus species and communities in Florida that are either G1, G2, threatened or endangered species or communities. And I want to let that number sink into you, because Texas only has 18. Florida has over 300 species and communities that we have to consider. And they're all over the state, you know, found in different places. And that's part of this training, is to help you see what tools are available to help you navigate where these species and communities are. And that was the purpose of the assessment the SIC has done. Another requirement of Objective 1 is for there to be training available for loggers and resource professionals, for foresters. So this particular presentation helps meet that requirement that's in Objective 1. I did want to let you know that every single master logger class that we have this year in Florida is going to have a module available for forests of exceptional conservation value. So when you get audited, if you're using trained logging professionals to deliver wood to your facility or harvest on your certified land, the Florida SIC Master Logger Program will help you meet that requirement of having trained loggers for forests of exceptional conservation value. And then the last thing is I wanted to make sure that you knew about the State Natural Heritage Program, which is called the Florida Natural Areas Inventory, FNA. I'm going to use FNA as a shortened thing. And FNA is our natural heritage database that feeds into NatureServe. So if you've been working in certification and sustainability, I know you've heard of NatureServe. Well, NatureServe gets their data about Florida from FNA. So FNA is the source of our forests of exceptional conservation value species. I'm going to stop there and see if anyone has any questions before I proceed. If you do, just unmute and ask.
I'm good, Ann. I'd just say we started with 10,274 species in the assessment to get to those 300.
Yeah. Don, that's Don Petit. Yeah, he was on the subcommittee that we were working on the assessment. Yeah, there's over 10,000 entries that we analyzed. Good point. Got it down to 300. All right, so we got to get a few definitions out of the way, so we're all speaking the same language here. So what does FECV, G1, and G2 mean? Because they're mentioned in Objective 1. So FECV stands for Forests of Exceptional Conservation Value. And nothing will make your SFI auditor happier as if you can use that term when you have conversations with him. or her when you're out visiting tracks and he or she is asking about biodiversity. So we call them forests of exceptional conservation value. And those are places where globally, meaning on Earth in the world, critically imperiled or G1 and imperiled G2 species and communities exist. So it's G1 means critically imperiled globally. G2 means imperiled globally, species and communities. So both of these designations, G1 and G2, means that these species and communities are very nearly extinct. There's very, very few occurrences of these species or communities. A G1 plant animal community is so extremely rare and vulnerable to extinction that 5 or fewer occurrences or populations remain. Less than 1,000 individuals or less than 2,000 acres in the world. So let that sink in. These G1s are so rare. G2 is kind of the same way, just a little more occurrences. But a G2 plant animal community is globally rare and also vulnerable to extinction. There's only 6 to 20 occurrences or populations remaining in the world. 1,000 to 3,000 individuals. 2,000 to 10,000 acres may exist. So those are the designations that Objective 1 wants us to address. In addition to the G1s and G2s, we also have the U.S. Endangered Species Act, the listed threatened and endangered species that the federal government oversees. So if something is a G1 or a G2 plant or animal, it may or may not be listed on the Federal Endangered Species Act list. So there's some crossover between the two designations, but surprisingly not as much as you would think. So remember, forests of exceptional conservation value, G1, G2, and U.S. threatened and endangered. Those are the things we're talking about. So while we're doing this presentation, I'm just going to throw in a few G1 and G2 things to kind of get you thinking about what we're talking about here. So this is a picture of the Itchitucknee River, and I'm sure everyone's gone tubing there, right? Did you know that that is a spring run stream? It has a name. It's a community, that forest around it and that water body, and it actually has a global rank of G2. It is extremely rare in the world, near becoming extinct as an aquatic community. I think we kind of take our spring runs for granted. I've spent many hours paddling or floating in these water bodies, but this is an example. The Itchitucknee River or any of our other beautiful spring runs that we have in Florida, that's a G2 community. That's an example. Down here at the bottom of this slide, we'll be talking some more about forest practice recommendations to protect and conserve these threatened and species of concern. Here for the spring run, implement BMPs and maintain streamside management zones. Something we already do. Here's another species that's also critically imperiled. This is a G1 mollusk, and it's listed on the U.S. threatened and U.S. endangered species list as threatened. It's the Swanee moccasin shell, and you can see in the little map up in the corner there where it occurs, but mainly it's in the Swanee River system. So Columbia, Dixie, Levy, Madison, Swanee, and Union County. Again, this is a extremely rare mollusk, and forest practices recommendations for this are also to implement BMPs and maintain streamside management zones. But this is an example, something you probably would never see because it's out in a creek or a stream, but these are the type of species of concern in Florida. So let's switch gears and talk about where we can get information on all this. Our clearinghouse in Florida is the Florida Natural Areas Inventory, FNA. It is our natural heritage program, and they are a member of the NatureServe network. So what FNA does is they manage a database of information on Florida's rarest species and natural communities. They conduct surveys and support land management practices. They are based at Florida State University. They actually got their original funding from the Nature Conservancy. What's important to know too is they are not a law enforcement agency. They just keep track of where species and communities occur, mainly on conservation lands, but also on some private land. And they make inferences with habitat that's similar between conservation land and private land. So the Florida Natural Areas Inventory feeds into NatureServe. If you use NatureServe as your data source, and they are not a law enforcement agency. They're just interested in counting what's out there and where it occurs. There's other designations, programs, and concerns in Florida. I just wanted to mention these and list them because if you're having an SFI audit, when it comes to Objective 1, having knowledge about these will help you train your foresters, work in the field, get information to landowners. These are all conservation organizations and programs and concerns that occur in the state. So just like we have global ranking designations, the G1s through G5s, where G1 and G2 are the ones we're concerned about, critically imperiled and imperiled species and communities. Florida actually has state rankings, and those rankings start with an S. All the states have that. So anything that you look at on NatureServe or in the FNA databases will have a state ranking designation S1 through S5 for the state. And obviously, if it's an S1, there's few occurrences, and an S5 or many occurrences. Something else that Florida has that's a very interesting document, and if you've never looked at it, I encourage you to do so. The Florida State Wildlife Action Plan. You can call it SWAP for short. Every state has a wildlife action plan. And what that action plan is it gets updated about every 10 years. I don't know what year that one came out for Florida Fish and Wildlife, but the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission maintains the State Wildlife Action Plan. It's required by federal law that every state has one. And what this plan does is it designates species of greatest conservation need and the threats to those species, and lays it all out in a beautiful scientific document. So if you're looking for good evidence about adhering to Objective 1, I suggest you check out the Florida State Wildlife Action Plan. Of course, Florida has quite a bit of conservation lands. We have our Florida Forever program, which has been in existence since the 90s. I think it was Governor Bush, Jeb Bush, that signed that Florida Forever Act into existence. That's another conservation program that is significant in the state. That's why we have so many conservation lands that are strung together to provide the corridors that our wildlife species need to exist. Something else that FNA takes care of is the Florida Longleaf Pine Ecosystem Database. If you're an FSC controlled wood certificate holder, we have specified risk for longleaf pine. That's a good source of information for you on FNA's website, the Florida Longleaf Pine Ecosystem Database. And then don't forget, and I know you all know about these, the Florida Forestry Wildlife BMPs for state imperiled species, all ties into this. this work with forests of exceptional conservation value. And what that guide gives us is certain species, giving us forestry recommendations for management to do biodiversity conservation. And then the last thing, FNA's got a pretty nice invasive species section on their website also. Okay, I'm going to slip another species in here. The southern hognose snake. It's a G2, also an S2. It's not listed under the Endangered Species Act. And it's a relatively small, stocky snake with a sharply upturned pointed snout. It is not a rattlesnake. Kind of looks like a rattlesnake though, doesn't it? If you didn't know your snakes, you might cut its head off because you thought it was a rattlesnake. But this is a non-venomous snake. It's a G2, occurs in the northern 2/3 of Florida, specifically Levy, Suwannee, and Taylor counties, and really is threatened by loss of upland habitat. So management of uplands and use of prescribed fire encourages habitat for the southern hognose snake. Anybody ever seen one of those? I never have. They're very rare. G2. Okay, now I'm going to move into the FNA website. So what I've done is I've taken screenshots from FNA's website to kind of walk you through how it works and how you can find information that will be useful to analyze tracts where you're working or do outreach to landowners. And then at the end of the presentation, I'm going to stay at the very end, we're going to do a live kind of a demonstration. I'll go into the FNA website and kind of march through it and show you how you click and get to these areas. But what I've done on the slides, on the screenshots, is I've used a red arrow to point to what's important to kind of guide you through the navigation of the site to get to where the useful information is. Okay, so this is the FNA website, the Florida Natural Areas Inventory. It's a really interesting website. I encourage you to explore it when you have time, but it's fna.org. And you can see up at the top, I have a red arrow on the tab that says Species and Natural Communities. That's the tab that you need to go to get information that will be useful to you as a forester or a harvester. What you're going to do is there's a drop down for rare species and communities we track. And then the first thing I'm going to show you is their searchable field guide and tracking list, where you can go in and select a specific county and get a complete list of species of concern that potentially could exist in that county. So you move down in the page. You select a county. In this particular slide, I've selected Lafayette County and clicked search. Lafayette County and clicked search. That's the county I'm interested in. A list pops up. I can move from plants and lichens to invertebrates to vertebrates to natural communities. So you can pick any type of species or community that you want. I'm picking vertebrates, and a list pops up with fish, reptiles, amphibians, mammals, birds, all that. Anything that's a vertebrate will show up. And there's plenty of links to click in this chart to get additional information about any species or community that you're interested in. And we're going to track one of them right now. So what I did was I selected vertebrates and I went down to the reptiles section, and I am going to look at the Suwannee alligator snapping turtle. That's a critter that's caused a lot of talk in the past year or two. It's a reptile that occurs specifically in the Suwannee River. It's a gruesome looking animal, but it is a G2. It's critically imperiled, and it's also an S2 in Florida and potentially going to be listed as threatened on the U.S. endangered species list. But what I wanted to show you is that if you were interested in getting information on select species or communities in this list is you can hover over the scientific name, and if it comes up as a live link, if you click on that, see where the red arrow is, where the live link is, it will take you to a very nice comprehensive field guide for the particular species that you've clicked on. So this is a very comprehensive detailed information about the Swanee alligator snapping turtle, a description of it, similar species, the habitat, where it occurs, and this last section, protection and management. FNA used to publish a book of these species. But now it's online. I've worked in this business so long, I actually still have my book. But they're great field guides, really, really useful. And then the last 2 pages are some very nice, lovely pictures of our Swanee alligator snapping turtle, which looks like it could take your hand off. Look at that adorable creature. Now, the other thing is sometimes I'm back on the FNA list again, still looking at the Swanee alligator snapping turtle. Sometimes that live link isn't live. You'll hover over the scientific name and there's no link. There's no field guide available. They haven't done one at FNA, done a field guide. So there's a tiny little dot, little icon. It's actually the NatureServe logo that's right beside the scientific name, and it's on that for every, if you look up and down the list here, it's that little icon to the right of the scientific name is there for every one of them, and that is also a live link straight to NatureServe. So if you click on that little NatureServe icon beside the scientific name, it will take you to NatureServe Explorer. I'm not showing you the whole page. I'm just showing you it will navigate you straight to NatureServe, and you can scroll down. This is just a screenshot. You can scroll down in this page and get very similar information that we just looked at from the FNA field guide. So if you don't have this live link on the scientific name, meaning FNA didn't do a field guide, all you got to do is click on the little NatureServe icon, and it'll take you right to the NatureServe website. Scroll down, and you'll find all kinds of information that's there, maybe from other states. Okay, I'm going to stop there and just take a breath. And if anybody's got a question, we're going to look at this live too in a few minutes, but I'm going to stop for just a second. Anybody got any questions? Okay. Oh, let's look at a plant. Here is the Florida spiny pod. That's a pretty cool plant. Occurs all over the state, but it too is a G2. It is Florida endangered, but not listed in the on the endangered species list. But it's a plant with spiny fruit capsules and has purple-black flowers, and they live on sandhills and upland pine and dry hammocks. So our water BMPs aren't going to help us with this one. The threats to this is equipment can damage plants. So running over it is not helpful, but they do prefer sunlight and prescribe fire to maintain an open forest. And I guess it looks like hogs probably cause a problem with these too. So they like open areas, plenty of sunshine. It's a pretty showy plant. If you look at the picture, it's not a super good picture, but it's got some berry pods and some nice flowers. So I don't think I've ever seen this one, but I've probably walked by it and just didn't even realize what it was. But Clay, Columbia, Levy, Madison, Swanee counties, where a lot of us operate. Okay, back to the FNA website. I'm going to show you something else you can do on this website that's different from those county lists that we just looked at. So if you go back to the Rare Species and Communities We Track page here in the Species and Natural Communities tab, if you go about halfway down the page, right above our tracking list, you'll see a link that says Biodiversity Matrix Map Server here. Click on that. It's pretty neat tool. So what that does is it takes you to an ArcGIS type map tool that's quite interactive. So what you can do is it has pretty much the whole state. All these green areas are conservation lands, but you can pick an area that you're interested in analyzing. For instance, if you have a stumpage tract, and maybe getting to the county level doesn't really get you the information you need about a specific site. What this matrix does is it takes you to a 1 square mile unit where you can run a list of what potentially could occur in 1 square mile versus the whole county. So let me show you how it works. So we're going to take a little trip to Brantford. So as you take your mouse and zoom in on the map, all of a sudden pink squares pop up, and each square represents 1 square mile. So what I've done with my red arrow, this is right on the Swanee River, just outside of Brantford, just south of Bird's Equipment, if you know where the Birds have their equipment shop in Brantford on Highway 27. Our tract, we're going to pretend like our tract that we want to harvest is there on the Swanee River there at Brantford. So once those pink squares pop up, you can go up to the right-hand corner of this matrix and click on the little square up there on the right. I got the arrow pointed to it. It says select draw mode. And then take your mouse and you have to stay inside the square, and you can actually highlight up to 8 squares. I'm just doing 1 square mile, but you can actually do up to 8 square miles. But my tract that I'm interested in is in this square mile. Highlight it and then click report, and it will generate a report that's got likelihood of species occurrence within that 1 square mile unit. So it's pretty cool. I know this is small, but when we go into it live, I'll make it bigger and you'll be able to show it. But this is another list with live links to the FNA field guides with all the G species and S species and threatened and endangered species designations, whether or not this does occur in that 1 square mile or it potentially could occur. So knowledge is power, and this is a great assessment to be able to show your auditor for your stumpage tracts that you've done a thorough biodiversity assessment. So I suggest you use this. And the good thing is I'll show you how to do it when we go live. Is you can go in and print this to PDF and put it in landscape, and you can print out a very nice paper copy to put in your track file, or a PDF to have in your electronic track file as evidence to your auditor that you did an assessment of where that stumpage tract is located. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody's got any questions about navigating that matrix. And again, I'm going to show you a live demonstration at the end. Okay, so now I'm going to move into what the SIC subcommittee, the FECV subcommittee, has been working on the past couple of months. We're planning on publishing hopefully by May 1st, and this assessment required by Objective 1 for all certificate holders to do this assessment. It will be available for all certificate holders, and we will email it out to everybody on the SIC. So all the companies will have access to this. And Chris Demers, I know she were on here, you know, anybody else that would like to take a look at it and use it, you're more than welcome. But we had I guess 7 or 8 of us on the subcommittee, and it was a collaborative effort. We had a lot of years of experience. We went through all these species and communities and analyzed them on whether or not we have an impact on that species in forestry. So there's 67 counties in Florida. We determined that as SFI certificate holders, we are doing harvesting and forestry activities in 52 of those counties. So again, we came up with over 300 species and communities that are G1, G2, or threatened and endangered within that 52 county wood procurement area that we may have an impact or possible impact on as forestry activities. So this is a really nice table that that Ed from Resolute put together, and it kind of as part of that was one of his assignments on our committee, and to kind of give a summary. You know, this is an assessment of what we have in Florida. This next slide is a snapshot of the actual data that we have. This data is for every county, every species and community, G1 to G5, S1 to S5, that FNA keeps track of. It's an Excel spreadsheet. It's got scientific name, common name, the counties where these things occur. We've done our committee impact analysis, whether or not water quality BMPs are good to apply to protect. And then we've also done forest practices recommendations that could benefit the species for every one of these. So each company will get this whole list, and you can slice and dice it and use it however you want. It's a big old Excel spreadsheet with 10,000 records in it. And it's also got habitat information. So that'll be coming to everyone on the SIC or anyone else that's interested in getting it. We got the original data straight from FNA. They did a data dump and gave us everything they have in their database, which was very helpful. Okay, I'm going to stop there and see if anybody's got any questions about the actual assessment and make sure everybody understands it's available to you to use. We will send it to you. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to move into our live demonstration. But before we do, there's one more slide I want to show you that I put after this. So on the FNA website, you know, if you're reading all these rankings, and some of them are kind of strange. They've combined some letters, and you may not know quite what they mean. But on the FNA website, at the bottom of that species and communities page, at the very bottom, there's a link to this PDF file that explains all the coding. So you'll know what they all mean when you see them on the website. Okay, so now we're going to do a live demonstration on how to use the FNA website tools. So if you bear with me, I'm going to change screens. All right, can somebody give me a verbal yeah that you can see the FNA website page now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, so the slide that I showed you kind of explains step by step what you do, kind of like what I did in the presentation with the red arrows. So I'm just going to walk you through it. I'm going to follow my PowerPoint slide and show you how easy it is to get information from the FNA website. So along with this website and the database that the SIC will provide to you as certificate holders or SIC members or anybody else, you should pretty much have everything you're going to need to be able to do your biodiversity work. Okay, so this is the FNA website. Here's the tab right here, species and natural communities. See how there's a drop down? And here's all the different things we talked about earlier about, you know, invasive plants and longleaf pine and species of greatest conservation need. But the information we're interested in is right here in this tab, this drop down, rare species and communities we track. So I'm going to click on that, and there's that page. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and scroll down and show you how to generate that county list. Or if you have information, if you're interested in a specific county or species. So I'm going to click Lafayette County. I'm staying in Branford. All right, I want all elements, and I want to include all results, not just the ones with field guide. And I want to include, do I want to include non-track species? No. So I'm going to hit search. And look, my list just pops right up. Okay, so this is Lafayette County, plants and lichens. If you want the invertebrates for Lafayette County, you just click on invertebrates. If you want vertebrates, you just click on vertebrates. If you want natural communities, you just click on natural communities. So let's go to vertebrates. And let's find something that's interesting. Let's see. Let's do the eastern indigo snake right here. So when I hover, as you can see, when I hover over the scientific name, see how that's a live link? So that means there's an FNA field guide available. I click on the scientific name, up pops the FNA field guide. It's got all kinds of descriptions, habitat, protection suggestions, some nice photos. Eastern indigo snake. But if I if I go over, let me find something that doesn't have a, okay, the hairy woodpecker. Ooh, that's not, I don't want to do that one. That's the G5. There's lots of them. Let me find something. I was going to try and I'll just do the indigo snake again. I click on the nature serve emblem right next to it, right next to the scientific name. It's a different link that takes me right to Nature Serve Explorer. And hopefully it'll pop up. It's like live television. Oh, there it is. So this is Nature Serve Explorer's page for the Eastern indigo snake. It's got the distribution and the different conservation status for each state. And as I'm scrolling down, it's got all kinds of information about the snake, including things from other states. So number of occurrences, protection comments, threat comments, things like that. So you can see, even if we don't have an FNA field guide for that species, you can always go to NatureServe. So, you know, this list isn't very friendly. There's no way to convert this list into Excel, for example. So that's why you should use the Excel database that the committee came up with as your, you know, sort and everything by county. That's the one that's got the Excel spreadsheet that's got every species and community and county and management recommendations on it, versus trying to use this to generate a list to like put in a track file or something like that. Okay, so next I'm going to move back to our rare species and communities page, and I'm going to demonstrate how to use the matrix map. So the link is right here in the middle of the page. See, when I hover over it, there's the link. So I click on that, and it brings up this nice ArcGIS web application. And you know, this is Florida. It has some nice directions. So if you don't have the directions I've given you, this tells you how to use the matrix, this quick start guide. So you can follow those directions. They're quite good. All right, so this is the state of Florida. Just to prove it to you. I'm scrolling out. There it is. Look at all the conservation lands, all those lands in green. That's amazing, isn't it? And the brown are the federal national forests and national wildlife refuges, and you know, the federal properties. But all those green areas are the conservation lands that that we've been able to string together in Florida. It's really great. Oh, look, there's the Cross Florida Barge Canal. I never noticed that. That's pretty cool. All right, so I'm gonna scroll in because I'm gonna go back to Brantford. You know, I'm fixated on Brantford. All right, so I'm gonna move around. You just got to find your spot here. There's the Osceola. There's Gainesville. There's High Springs. There's the Itchitucknee. There's Lafayette County. There's Brantford. See it right there. Whoop. And there's those pink 1 square mile squares. All I did was, you know, now you don't see them, and you just zoom in a little more and they pop right up. See them? So those are 1 square mile. Okay, so my tract that I'm interested in that we were talking about is right here, just south of the Bird's Place, just up the road from Brantford on Highway 27. So what I'm going to do is go up here to the right. There's a little emblem up here for screening. I click on that and the screening thing drops down and I can select draw mode. So it says just create your selection in this draw mode. So all I do is go in and get in my square and highlight it, and it highlights it right up, and I can generate a report. But let me show you. You can go up to 8 square miles. So each one of these squares is 1 square mile. So you can actually, you know, highlight 8 of them if you want. You got to stay inside the square and don't go over because it'll give you an error message. But I can do a report for 8 square miles if I want to. But to keep it simple, we're just going to do our 1 square mile that we're interested in here in Brantford. So here I go. I highlight my square, hit report. And there's my report. So this is great evidence for your auditor, for your stumpage tracks. Use this report. You can slip it in. You know, I'll show you in just a minute how to print it or save it to PDF. And then you can have it in your track file to show your auditor that you did an assessment for your stumpage track. All right, so for this particular 1 square mile matrix, it shows documented elements that were found. Oh, look, there's our Swanee moccasin shell. That was the little mollusk I showed you that lives in the Swanee River. So it's documented, you know, here in this area. It's got live links. I'm going to click on the Swanee moccasin shell live link. Takes me right to the FNA field guide. You can print these out and give them to a landowner or stick them in a track file too if you're so inclined. As you scroll down, it'll show elements likely found, so species that are likely found. I'm seeing. Do I need to make this bigger? Can you guys see it? Eastern indigo snake, wood stork.
A little bit bigger.
A little bit bigger. Let's see. I don't know if I can do that or not. Let's try. Is that bigger? That helped. Here we go. Yeah. So you can see, you know, you have all these links. But you can look over here and see your global rank. So, you know, you don't have to worry about any of these things that are G3 or G4. You're interested in the G1s and G2s and whether or not it's federally listed. So like the gopher tortoise is a species of concern in Florida. You know, it's endangered over in Alabama by the Tombigbee River there west. But here in Florida, they're just a species of concern for us. So, you know, so it's got all these species, you know, most of them are not G1s and G2s. Well, a lot of them are G2s, I should say, but you know, you don't have to worry about the G5s, just the G1s and G2s, or whether it's United States listed. So let me show you how to download this report. Now it's not friendly, unfortunately for this, but what you do is you go up, you've got your report for your 1 square mile or your 4 square miles or whatever it is you did. And you want to have a record of it. And it's something that you can keep. Go up to your 3 dots, click on those, and go down to print. And a preview will load. There it is. So that's a preview of your report. Now you have to put it in landscape layout. If it's in letter layout, it'll cut off a third of it. So make sure you change your layout to landscape and it'll capture all the columns. You'll see it, see? It's got them all here. And then print to PDF. And you'll have a PDF of your 1 square mile. You can name it your track name or whatever you want to name it. So that's how you can have evidence for your auditor that you actually did an assessment for your tract. Okay, so I'm going to stop there. I'm going to pull this this slide up on how to use the website tools, and that's pretty much the end of the presentation. We've talked about what G1s and G2s are, what threatened and endangered are, some of the resources where you can get information, what's required of the SFI fiber sourcing objective 1 for all you certificate holders, and hopefully that is going to help everybody meet the requirements of objective 1. So anybody got any questions? Is there something I need to explain further? You got any comments or suggestions? I'm love to hear them.
No, great job, Ann. I just tell the group when we started talking this, we were kind of disjointed, and I remember the meeting where said, "Who's got time to lead this committee?" And it was crickets. And I want to thank you for stepping up. There was a lot of work, kind of herding the cats. Got some more work to do, but this is excellent. I don't think individually we might have gotten here without some of your direction and help.
Well, I'm glad to do it. And our work is not done, because as soon as we put this assessment to bed, guess what? We're going to work on the landowner guide. Yep. Yeah, so we'll be publishing a landowner guide this year too. So that's our next project. But I love Florida, and I love what I do for a living, and I think we do an excellent job out in the woods, and knowledge is power. And none of these species are going to keep us from harvesting timber or practicing forestry. But we need to look out for them because they're almost extinct. Any other comments?
I would ask Brittany if we could get a attendee list. We'll use it in our training file. If possible.
Yes, yep. Absolutely. I have them all. I got to clean it up a little bit, but I'm going to format it. And yeah, I can get it to you for sure.
So do you have everyone's name, Brittany? Did you need anybody else's name? Did you get all your
it's kind of it's hard to tell the way the chat is set up, but I got a lot of people's names. So if anybody did not put your name down, and request if you need master logger SAF credits, please do so. And for SAF, please put your registration number.
Well, I hope this helped folks trying to meet the requirements of objective 1, and your SIC will provide you with their assessment, the whole list of everything in Excel that you can use. It's got everything by county, habitat, the recommendations that we made for we're kind of using the word mitigation, but I kind of feel like it's better to call it forestry recommendations. All that information, this presentation, it's all there for you. This is a community project. We're all in this together, and we all work together to come up with this. So it's been a good project for us.
Deal.
All right. Well, I took up 56 minutes.
Yeah,
That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
excellent, excellent
All right.
presentation put together.
All right. Well, if anybody's got any questions and wants to hang on, I'll hang on for just a second. But otherwise, thank you, and it was a pleasure doing this presentation for you today on behalf of the Florida SIC.
All right, great.
Thank you very much. Enjoyed it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. I think that went great.
It did. It went good.
Did you stop the recording?
I'm about to. Let's see.